Hi Athens, this is Kaleidoscope. I am Nan Michael and my co-producer is with me today, as
usual.
Jane Penwell. Hi Jane.
Hello, Nan. How are you today?
I'm pretty good actually. I forgot to tell you before the show, don't ask who the funeral was for. I'm going to tell you that I went to a funeral Sunday that was just beautiful. It was in a state park, and at the end, they had a releasing the doves ceremony.
Sounds lovely.
What they first did was let everyone touch one dove, and that symbolized the person whose soul was being released. And so they released that dove, and then they released a huge flock of doves representing all of us.
Oh, how nice.
Going with the person.
How nice. I went to a lovely funeral once. My cousin sadly passed away. She had breast cancer. She beat it, and then she got it again, and it killed her. And she was young, like, I don't know, in her 50s. And she lived in Maryland, and the church that they chose was in a really old town, had a little old graveyard. It was a little old country church. And that was one of the best funerals I was ever at, too. Because it was that, and we walked with the coffin from the church to the cemetery. It was really lovely. So some funerals can be, others are not. But
Well, I did say funeral, and it was a memorial service.
no, this was really a funeral, but same
It was
idea.
spread out in the state park with the trees all around, and it was beautiful. Anyway, I know you want to talk, but maybe we should see something, some video footage before we talk.
Oh, that
What
would
do you
be
think
new.
of that?
That would be new and unique. We could try doing that. Usually we talk, we're afraid we won't get all the video footage in.
I
What are
know.
we going to see first?
Well, I just got back from my vacation at Lake Hope, and two of my daughters and one of my granddaughters went ziplining.
Oh, I wanted to take my grandchildren and do that.
Bless their hearts, they rented a camera while they were there that fit into their
Helmet, yeah.
helmet.
A GoCam.
And so they got like 2 hours of footage, but this is 5 minutes of footage, I think. So
And they're going to where?
from one platform to another.
Through the Hocking Hills trees, right?
I did edit it, so take it away, zipping.
Well, Athens, I have my glasses on only because I can't read without them. And I want to read some to make sure that I quote correctly what I have heard. Because what I have heard to me is so shocking that I can't believe any American citizen would say such a thing. So here goes. Nan doesn't know what this is yet, so we'll see how she. Donald Trump wants Americans infected with Ebola to be kept out of their own country. In a series of tweets posted over the weekend, Trump said doctors who treat Ebola patients are great, but shouldn't be allowed to seek treatment back home if they get sick. Treat them at the highest level over there, Trump tweeted, adding, the U.S. cannot allow Ebola-infected people back. People that go to faraway places to help out are great, but must suffer the consequences. But Donald didn't stop there. He said the U.S. must stop all flights from Ebola-infected countries or the plague will start and spread inside our borders. The fact that we are taking patients while others from the area are fleeing to the United States is absolutely crazy. Stupid politicians at fault.
Wow. Well, my daughter happens to work at Emory, where this Ebola patient is doctor, and she emailed me that the ward is right next to the cafeteria.
That's lovely.
But I think that's terrible. That's terrible.
We say no soldier left behind. You know, this guy who we got back from the Taliban, you know, at great expense to us. I mean, we had to release a bunch of other prisoners and stuff. But they said he's a soldier, he was in combat, we won't leave him behind. If we figure out he did something he shouldn't have done after he gets back here, he'll suffer the consequences. Okay, so no soldier left behind. But if you go to be a humanitarian, that's
you
an entirely
have to suffer
different.
the consequences.
You have to suffer the consequences.
It sounds like they did something bad.
It does. And I know it's very, very scary and frightening. I have 4 grandchildren and children and, you know, relatives and all kind, you know, like everybody does. But I just can't believe that an American would say, leave an American citizen. In that country, they have no way of being treated there at all. The only way they can get treatment is to come back to this country. And Emory has worked with the CDC. They say it's a completely safe, sealed, totally sealed environment. I saw him get off the plane and he was in a hazard suit, you know, covering his whole body. He looked like an astronaut. And he was stumbling along, poor thing. There is something that they gave him and the woman too, which I can't remember what it is, but they just had enough to treat 2 people. And luckily for these 2, they're Americans, so they're getting treated. You know, I guess with Ebola, you die because your body loses its fluids so fast and you can't replace them fast enough yourself because you're vomiting so much. And then that causes your organs to start to shut down and so forth. So if they can keep fluids in your body and they have found something, disorder works. I wish I could remember what it was, but I can't. It's some odd thing that I've never heard of before, so it didn't make any sense to me.
I think I don't know for sure, but it seems like they give them something for their blood, either not to coagulate, I guess to coagulate a little bit.
To coagulate, yeah. It's something that I was totally unfamiliar with, and they didn't really explain in what I was listening to what it was. But anyhow, there's some little hopeful treatment. But to think of leaving these people, the country we're in, people are fleeing. They would have just been left there to die. I can't even imagine. It's beyond my comprehension that anybody would, about any human being, you know, I don't care, but especially a missionary and a doctor who put their own lives in jeopardy to go help people.
They're going to have to suffer the consequences for their choices.
I think Donald Trump to suffer the consequences for saying that. You know, he always runs for president,
sure.
You know. So this is on him. I hope he gets up on that stage in Iowa. I feel like going. I'm going to go to Iowa and heckle him and say, what in the world kind of a human being? Do you think we want somebody like you as the president of the United States? I'd be afraid to live in the United States if
Do
you were
you
the
always
president.
tell the truth?
Pretty much.
You going to go to Iowa?
I may. I'm just saying I'm thinking about it. I don't know if I will, but I sure feel like it. So watch out, Trump. 2016, I'm on your case.
This may be a good time to hear a few people talking about the war.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, this is a war too. I mean, we're on Ebola, that's for sure.
Right.
It feels like it anyway.
Okay, to the poetry group talking about war.
I needed to take out. I am Ares, insatiable god of war. Send me your loved ones to die. Enlist able-bodied young men first, drilled with ingenious skill to kill. When these perish, I resort to using both older men and younger boys. Females, too, now join the carnage. Let all in my thrall share the slaughter. When this supply is exhausted, foes can hurl their newborn babies at each other. See those pregnant women queuing up? They too want to be gold star mothers, proud to have given their offspring to me.
Wow. No, that's heavy.
Pretty dark, wasn't it?
It's most regrettable that we have in our culture the call on people, the demand, if you will, on people who, let's say, mothers, lose their sons in some foolish, ridiculous war, that somehow they are called upon to make it, it's called
Heroic.
cognitive dissonance, to justify that it was done in a good cause, that it was worthwhile, even though it was just one more life thrown away. But we have that strong urge in our culture to always remove the dissonance of, my son died, and he died for no good reason whatsoever. That's a damn hard thing for anybody to say, and so patriotism continues, for psychological reasons such as that.
Oh, that's exactly what I was trying to think about, this perversion that turns a mother's grief over losing a child into something that she's supposed to be proud of and brag about. I gave 3 children to the war. I think it's pathetic.
It is
It's
pathetic.
sad.
But Sven, when you say we, do you mean we the human race or we Americans?
I lost track of where I said we, but it's in this culture, the
Well, yeah.
Western culture.
But I don't think it's not just this culture.
It's not
That's my
Western
quote.
culture.
It's everywhere. I mean, the American
Well-
Indians used to do that. The Spartan mothers used to tell their sons, it'd send them off to war saying, come back carrying your shield or on it. I don't care which. But,
Okay. So I'm sure that the attitude researchers and so on would agree with you that this business of the unpleasantness of cognitive dissonance creates the need to eliminate the dissonance by saying in this case, it's worthwhile.
I'm
So that'd be
gonna-
worldwide sharing.
I'm gonna
To the degree
ask-
that people are the same.
Well, very sobering. And you said that you something on war poetry.
Sassoon, and I'm sorry, but I don't know his first name. I should, but I don't. Who was probably the most famous World War I poet. And I believe now, I should have looked this up while we were gone. I believe he wrote the poem, "In Flanders Field the poppies grow, amongst the crosses row on row," which is the most famous World War I poem. Anyhow, evidently he took with him a supply of these little tiny notebooks. And I've seen this. I mean, you can buy the little spiral bound ones, and they're about 4 inches wide. Well, evidently he had a supply of those. And he wrote constantly, probably just to keep himself sane, I imagine. And in England, somebody found a group of these notebooks that were unknown, that had never been looked at before.
Because he was killed.
Because he was killed, and they just probably shipped his back, and who knows. I get tickled about England. Every once in a while I hear this. They uncover something that they didn't know was there. And this is true, I read this. A copy of George Washington's farewell address was found in a manor house in England when they moved a sofa. It was in a box, and somebody had shoved it under the sofa, and it had sat there for 200 years. And they
Says something about the housekeeping.
I'm telling you, yeah. And what happened was the people who owned the manor house had given it to the National Trust. And the National Trust wanted to clear everything out and decide what they're going to keep, blah, blah, blah. So they picked this up, and evidently it must have been like a wooden, not a sofa like we think of, upholstered, but a wooden bench, maybe more so than a sofa. And very heavy, quarter sawn oak, so it probably weighed a ton. And they picked it up, and they asked, "We wonder what's in that box." And it was a copy of George Washington's farewell address. So God bless England. They just have stuff over there. They just keep finding it every now and then. There's another good one, the Downton Abbey. Do you watch Downton Abbey? A TV show?
I don't watch much TV except public access.
Well, that's, public, PBS. Anyhow, those of you who do watch Downton Abbey, you may know that that was the home of the man who sponsored the in the Valley of the Kings by Carter that resulted in the finding of the tomb of Tutankhamun. And the owner of Downton Abbey, was there when it happened. He was there when the tomb was opened and so forth. Okay, so fast forward, what would it be? 100 years at least, I don't know, 100 some years. And in the process of making Downton Abbey ready for, like the filming, and then they were going to open it up to people and so on and so forth, they were cleaning it up. And they noticed, as you went through from one of these rooms to another, there was a really thick wooden, woodwork there. And somebody said, "Well, wonder what that is." They noticed there was a little hole there. So they fiddled around with it, and a cupboard popped open that nobody knew was there, popped open, and they found relics from the opening of that he had brought back with him, that had sat in there for 100 years. Nobody knew they were there. I swear, I'm going to go over to England and fiddle around in a manor house and see what I can
I can
find.
believe that.
More likely than me going to Iowa, huh?
Well, let me tell you that coming up next is a little bit of footage from the fair, but it's not the Athens Fair. It's the Benton County Fair. While on vacation, my daughter took my camcorder and got to Benton County Fair. And I just pulled out just a little bit to give you a flavor. I think just the beginning. Instead of the demolition derby, evidently they build a hole in the ground and have cars drive into it and see if they get out or not.
Oh,
So we'll take a look at the Benton County Fair. And by the way, I think the second auto is driven by a 16-year-old girl.
oh, cool.
So
That sounds like
to the
fun.
fair.
Have fun with that treasure, buddy.
Here we go. Cummins power. Okay, here he comes back through.
Let her eat, buddy.
We got a female on this one. 16 years old.
Where's Aaron at?
last one. Let's see how deep it was.
Go!
Oh yeah, the big muddy one. Record.
Let's give it a big hand.
Pickup truck.
They're putting that brand new Chevy in. Oh, he's turning.
Okay, here we go. See how far this big Chevy will
It's a
take
brand
it
new
out
truck.
there.
Oh.
Getting all that off of.
Well, he didn't give it any go.
Back out.
He went through No, I think it feels good out here finally. Oh yeah.
Yeah, big guy.
I can tell you what it was. I'm pretty sure it's like oh yeah. I haven't been on there today. I use my phone.
Go get him. Here comes the backhoe.
Have fun with that stroker, buddy.
Well, are you going to the fair this week?
I doubt it. Not that I don't like fairs. I love fairs. I love to go to the state fair. I love to eat fair food.
Athens County Fair.
But I just moved and I'm in the throes of, oh, it's like a demon wind went through that house. I'm just trying everything I can to get everything in order, and I can hardly stand to not be in my house unpacking boxes.
Well, if any of you out there go to the fair and videotape anything, even your family member in some derby,
Eating an elephant ear.
please share it with public access, because I'm only going to go on one day and I'm only going to tape one thing, which is the shufflers, the dancers.
Oh.
And Alexa is going on Old Folks Day, and she's going to videotape.
What day is old? Tell people what day is Old
Animals.
Folks Day.
Huh?
What day is Old Folks Day? Maybe there's
It's
some.
Thursday.
There's Old Folks Day. So you have to be over what? 65?
Well,
Don't know.
I've never had anybody question me that whether I was old enough to qualify or not. I have a Buckeye card.
There you go. If you've got a Buckeye card, probably you'll get in on
Yeah.
Old Folks Day. And that's free totally
Yes,
get
until
in?
3 o'clock.
until 3 o'clock. Well, that's nice. That's good to know. Get up and go to the fair. I'm not going to get to do it this year, but I would love to.
Well, I don't know if they charge. I tried to go to Siemens last night, and it was after 9. It was nearer 10, and they weren't open, but there were people going to the fair that late at night.
Well, yeah, 'cause if they've got animals there or something, you know, they have to go in and take care of them and all that. A lot of kids, when I was a kid, the kids all that had animals all slept at the fair, you know, with the animals or near the animals. So I'm not surprised by that.
that's-
Yeah.
Speaking of animals, my cat is having his right eye out, or left eye, taken out, even
Oh.
as we speak. He's my blind, deaf cat, but the eyeball started deteriorating, and I thought that he might get an infection, so I've got to call Dr. Abfall when we get off here and check on how he's doing. Unfortunately, his name is Lucky.
Oh,
Maybe I did that to him.
maybe you did. I had a dog one time that ran out in the road and got hit by a car, and his eye was demolished and had to be removed. But he did great. I mean, you couldn't even tell by anything he did that he only had one eye. He just adapted to it.
Well,
beautifully.
Lucky can't see it all.
Yeah, he could see perfectly out of his other eye, evidently.
Hey, why don't we go and look at some of what's going on in town, which is translated into road work.
Oh, everywhere you go, orange signs. On my way out here today, I got stopped in traffic, which is rare for Athens, because they were doing road work. I get up on the freeway, I go around a bend, what do I see? Orange sign, road work. And I know Ohio winters, and especially this last winter, are really bad on roads. I know that. Logically I know that. Emotionally I'm like, get out of my way!
Well, those poor people. I never knew there were so many hard hats in Athens.
Well, I know, and
I mean, really, literally. But they also work at night, and I'm sure they work at night so there's less traffic, and they're left in.
And it's cooler.
They're less in anybody's way,
Right.
like people that are cursing them
saying,
for
"Get
being
out of
there.
my way." Well, and it's probably cooler too if you think about it. You
Yeah.
know this, but I used to work for a state agency. I was a trainer, and I drove all over the state of Ohio all the time. And a lot of times I'd be coming back later in the evenings, 8, 9 o'clock, on the major freeway, 71 and so forth. And they're always out there then, it seemed like to me.
Well, let's take at
They're brave.
workers at night.
Yeah, brave guys, if you ask me.
Jane,
Yes, Nan.
have you been to any movies recently?
Yes, I went to one, and this may surprise you to know that I went to see Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I knew you'd get a kick out of it. I really, to tell you the truth, I was in such a dither. I just mentioned that I had been moving, right? And I just wanted to get out of the house, and a friend of mine was going, and it wasn't my pick, believe me, but it was surprisingly better than I thought. I mean, it's not a fantastic movie, but it was a lot better than I thought it would be. The apes are not too, they're pretty believable. And their costumes, or whatever you want to call it, you know, these are guys dressed up as apes, right? They're very believable in a lot of instances, especially when they don't get up too close to them. When they have they're showing their whole body. They're very believable, very. But when they get up too close, you can tell that it's makeup because they have trouble speaking. But anyway, it's an interesting story, or an interesting concept. A virus comes, you know, and it kills humans, but in the apes, it causes them to change, radically change.
Ebola?
No, it isn't anything like that. It's some kind of, it's a brain, the virus of the brain, and it causes the apes to have abilities that they would never have had before. This virus opens up their brain in some kind of a way, but it kills us, right? So it opens up on this big colony of apes living in the forest, and you can see they ride horses. You can see they communicate with each other, so on and so forth. Well, they run into some humans whom they thought they were all gone, but they're not, far from it. And it turns out that where they're living is in the mountains above San Francisco. And the humans, of course, are congregated in San Francisco. And they came up into these because they're trying to get power for their city. There's no power left of any kind. And so they are trying to get a dam that's up in these mountains to work and generate some power for the city. So they run into this group of apes. And now they both know that the other exists, right? And as with anything else, you cannot change once you know. You can't unknow. So a great deal of horribleness on both sides, both the apes and the humans, happens as a result of the fact that they both know that the other colony exists.
Well, this is not too far from the topic, but one of the days on vacation, it rained all day, and I watched 4 movies. And one of the movies was Harry Henderson.
I faintly remember
Have you
that.
seen that?
Years and years.
Bigfoot. Oh, it's
Yeah.
marvelous. I just loved it. And
Yeah.
it turned out I had, maybe for some reason I had never seen all of it, but it was great.
Yeah.
The other 2 were, one of them, no, 2 of them was Dr. Doolittle's.
Oh, yeah.
And the third one must not have struck me so much, so I don't remember what that was.
Oh, I saw another movie too.
Well, I don't know how much time. How about talking about it after our visit to the Fur Piece Ranch?
Oh, that sounds good.
Alex taped that. The Fur Piece Ranch outside of Athens
But no music, right? Just the.
along 33.
Yes.
Yeah,
No,
33.
Is
Yeah.
it 33?
Yeah.
Va bene. That's Italian.
It's a tough job. Someone's got to do it though, right?
That's it.
You got a crowd.
Well, we've been busy.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the tour of the Fur Piece Ranch. And as a special treat, we have with us the person who shot that video and who actually went to the Fur Piece Ranch. not me. It wasn't me. I've never been there, although I've wanted to go. So this is Alexa. You've seen her before. She's been on. And she's going to tell us a little bit about it. So when you went, did you go just to tour the ranch, just to see what was going there? Or?
Well, I'd never been there. I'd always heard about it. I hear the radio shows. And I hope this concert is on a radio show. Of course, I couldn't videotape the concert, but it's a beautiful day. It was White Bird, da-da-da-da-da, electronic violin. It was just riveting. And it's not a large space. It's no wonder all the concerts are always sold out long ahead of time.
I think I saw on the website, I was just looking at the website before we came back, 200. There's only 200 seats.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess you got to get there way in advance.
Well, they had 2 extra shows this summer, so I jumped on it. I didn't know where it was, so I invited my nephew and his girlfriend, who just bought a house, and the 3 of us went down there, and they're the ones hanging out in front of the psychedelic silo that has the art exhibit, the Gracie Slick portraits that I found very nice.
I love it, psychedelic silo.
And that was
Shades
Janis,
of the 60s.
Janis Joplin, the black and white photographs, if you didn't recognize her.
Oh my gosh. Janis was one of my favorites. I could sing a Janis Joplin song right now. I'll spare you. Oh Lord, won't you buy me a color TV? Dialing for dollars is trying to find me. And then Janis goes, like a witch.
Oh.
Anyway.
I've seen some old Dick Cavett shows where she was on, and she was so young. I'm now a big fan of Amy Winehouse.
Oh, yeah.
So I would never attempt to sing like her.
Woof.
My hat's off to you.
Well, thank you so much. Only because of you two did I do that. Excuse me, Janis, I'm sorry. I apologize. But, you know, those shades of the 60s when I was a kid, I mean, it's really fun.
Well, the Lord did get you a color TV, right? So
well,
it
he
worked
didn't
out.
exactly give it to me, but I do have a color TV. He gave the ability to buy one.
But
How
not a
about that?
Mercedes-Benz.
No, I didn't get a Mercedes-Benz. No, I sure didn't.
Ah.
But, you know, I'm fine.
Friends with Porsches.
I actually had a Porsche once.
Oh.
So I know Mercedes-Benz, but I had a Porsche. I had a 914. Do you remember what those were?
No.
The engine was in the middle.
Oh.
It was the best car to hug the road, to stay on the road ever built, because the engine was in the middle. And it was so funny, like if you were at a motel, you had the front up and the back up, and people were like, where's the engine? I was right behind you in this little tiny car. I only had it about, I guess, a year and a half, and then I sold it. But because my son was born and didn't have any room for kids, but it was really fun. Those were fun times, I gotta say. Grace Slick. Now, I haven't thought about her in years. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was quite a fashion icon, and you know, everything in the 60s. And then who else? Who else is in that psychedelic silo?
Well, portraits of Jimi Hendrix, Carlos Santana, photographs of Janis Joplin.
Jimi Hendrix, golly. There's another one. These people died so young. It's scary when you think about it. What could they have been today, you know? It's so sad to think of how young Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix were when they passed away. And kind of the end of the 60s, it felt like another world to me when we went into the 70s, and they were all gone, and things had changed so much. So, but I'm glad to know they're being kept alive at the Fur Peace Ranch.
That's right.
So when they say ranch, that makes me think Wild West or something. Does it look like what we would think of as a ranch?
Well, if you ever look at the video, you'll see it's got a little bit of a Western theme.
Little vibe.
Yeah.
A little bit of a vibe. So I guess the idea of a ranch in southern Ohio is a little bit odd. It goes along with that whole thing, I guess.
I just hope that wonderful concert is on NPR.
I'm sure. I can't say I'm sure. How can I say I'm sure?
Yeah.
But I bet it will be because he usually gets his good stuff on for sure. So, and he played with Hot Tuna, but before that, he played with a 60s band, and I can't remember who it was right off the top of my head.
I'm not sure.
If I could remember, you would know them more, and so would everybody else. But anyhow, it's kind of amazing to think of a guy like that coming to Pomeroy or near Pomeroy, Ohio. It's just amazing. Mm-hmm. And we're lucky, aren't we, to have him?
Yeah. That's
for sure. Well, please do not write in and tell me not to sing again because I never will. It's my one and only. I channeled Janice for just a moment there. Poor soul. Oh, goodness. But we have to say thank you to Al for coming and talking about the Fur Peace Ranch and telling us about it. It was fun.
Yeah.
Doing it.
Great.
Well, I'm afraid that Jane is really an expert on music and the culture. I don't know what I was doing during those years, but I know that I'm not into music. What did I admit?
Well,
but of course, Motormouth here knows everything about everything.
Not quite. Most of what I know I can't remember, so that's really sad.
You did a good job, Alexa.
Thanks. Well, you know, the 60s, that's when I grew up. So my brain was young and fresh, and, you know, everything got planted in there. And the music of the 60s will be, if I'm on my deathbed and you want to revive me, just play the Supremes, you know, that'll bring me back. So it's just a joy to me every time I go to an oldies but goodies, you know, and listen to those 60s songs. It's just a joy. I had a wonderful time in the 60s. But just like I said to her, it just seemed as soon as we got to the end of the 60s, Bobby Kennedy was shot, you know, and so forth. It just seemed like, oh, gee whiz, it turned into another world. So even more makes me think how precious those memories are of just having fun and dancing all night and, you know, whatever we did. We won't go into that, will we? No. But this did make me think of concerts that I attended in the 60s. And I went to some wonderful concerts. I remember one especially. Does the name Odetta mean anything to you? Does that ring a bell at all?
Not to me, but probably to them.
Yeah. She was a singer, a black woman who sang a lot of freedom songs and was involved in the whole freedom movement. And I saw her with Peter, Paul, and Mary in the 60s. And she talked and sang, you know, and talked about her own experiences. And that was absolutely unforgettable. At night, we were outside. It was an amphitheater outside at night. And she had this deep, rich. It was near Washington, D.C., but I'll tell you exactly where it was. I don't remember. But she had this deep, rich, wonderful voice, and it was getting dusk, and they hadn't quite turned the lights on yet. And it was just a magical. Peter, Paul, and Mary were nothing in the end compared to her. And when I went for Peter, Paul, and Mary, you know, of course, because they were so famous. But she was fantastic. And I saw Willie Nelson one time, and he was fantastic in many ways. I was astonished by him.
I saw him at the Nelson. When he was here, they had a sign up like, welcome to Willie Nelsonville or something like that.
He was really fantastic. He was much better. I mean, I liked his music. Okay, that's fine. But as a human being, he was a lot more than a lot more.
How'd you get to find out?
Well, this was another one of those deals outside, you know, at a music festival. And it was getting kind of rowdy. When he came out, people were yelling for him, you know, we'd been there a while, people had been drinking, of course, and all that. And he just quieted that crowd down. He just has a presence. I can't even tell he is exactly, but he's a little tiny guy, a little short, tiny guy, but he just has a presence. And he calmed everybody down, sang a couple songs, and then Waylon Jennings was there with him too. And he called Waylon out, and they sang Amazing Grace. Oh boy, that's a mess. The sun was going down again.
Oh.
And they knew every verse, you know, like they sang it like my grandmother would have sung it, you know, every verse. So that was a wonderful memory too. And then everybody just quietly got up and left. I mean, it wasn't like, usually when you leave those things, that's the worst time because everybody's been drinking, they want to get to their cars, everybody's, ugh. It wasn't like that. It was like a magical moment. People just sort of got up and floated away. So that was fantastic. I wish I had a recording of that. I can tell you because that was a fantastic moment. But so you didn't go to any concerts with that in the 60s, huh?
No.
You were probably raising kids. Were you raising in the 60s?
Yeah, but see, I'm older than you, so I was an older generation.
Yeah, I guess. Well, for those of you who are in the 60s like me, grew up, we all have our memories, don't we? That's the pleasant thing about getting older. One of the good things about getting older is you can go through those memories, you know, think about them.
Well, I heard Pete Seeger sing at the storytelling conference in Tennessee.
Well, now that's a treat. I never heard
I
of
have a picture. Laura Luther was with me, and she arranged to get a photo with her and me and Pete.
Oh, cool. You'll have to bring it next week. Bring it. We'll put it on.
Okay.
Something for you to look forward to, Athens.
Right, and she sent it to me for Christmas, so that's
very
really
nice.
Neat. Thank you, Laura. And I just got the finger. 1 minute
Not
left.
that finger. Not that finger.
1 minute left.
1 minute left. So I guess we'll have to say farewell, adieu. We meet again. I could sing that, but I won't.